Ask most people how the ancient world lost its knowledge, and they'll tell you about a fire, a great dramatic blaze that consumed the Library of Alexandria. It's a powerful image. It's also mostly wrong. The real story isn't about a single catastrophe. It's about a world that slowly, almost imperceptibly, forgot how to read. How does an entire civilization lose literacy, not in a day, but over centuries? To understand how this happened, we need to understand what Roman intellectual life looked like and who it depended on. Roman intellectual life was not a public good, it was a product of a specific social class. Wealthy lay elites, lay meaning non-clergy secular people, had the leisure to read, the money to procure hand-copied books, and a practical reason to be educated. Government careers demanded it. This pattern isn't unique to Rome. In Imperial China, aspiring bureaucrats sat grueling civil service exams on poetry and Confucian classics. In the British Empire, top colonial posts went to men steeped in Greek and Latin. In all three cases, elite education served as a gatekeeping mechanism, a social filter, not practical training. The content mattered less than the exclusivity. And here's the key insight. When the gate no longer leads anywhere, the education loses its purpose. These educated elites didn't operate in isolation. They were connected through a network of great centers of learning across the Mediterranean. Athens housed the academies of Plato and Aristotle, the foundation of Western philosophy. Pergamum in Asia Minor became so famous for its writing materials that the word parchment derives from its name. Parchment, writing material made from animal skin, developed when Pergamum's supply of papyrus was cut off. Alexandria held the Mausoleum, not a museum in our sense, but a research institution and library, more like a modern university. And Constantinople, founded later, would become the great preserver of Greek texts. These weren't just buildings, they were nodes in a network sustained by trade, wealth, and political stability. Of all these centers, none is more famous or more misunderstood than Alexandria. The popular story blames the Muslim conquest of the 7th century for destroying the library. The reality is far less dramatic and far more instructive. The Mausoleum was closed by Emperor Caracalla in 215 CE, over 400 years before the Muslim conquest. Caesar's fire in 48 BC likely damaged the warehouse of books near the harbor, not the library itself. By the 3rd century, civil disorder, plunder, and simple neglect had already gutted the collection. The supposed destruction in 642 CE? By then, there was little left to destroy. The library didn't burn in a single blaze. It faded over centuries of declining investment, political chaos, and institutional decay. There was no single villain, no single fire, and that's precisely what makes this story important. The slow version is harder to see, harder to stop, and far more common in history. So if it wasn't a dramatic catastrophe, what was it? The answer lies in a concept from historian Chris Wickham, the radical simplification of material culture. Material culture means the physical objects, buildings, goods, and infrastructure of a society. Wickham's insight is that the decline of learning was part of a much larger collapse. Long-distance trade shrank. With less trade, wealth and surplus contracted. With less wealth, patrons who funded education and book production disappeared. Books were luxury goods. They required literate scribes, animal skins or papyrus, ink, and someone willing to pay for all of it. As the material world simplified, books became rarer, and the skills to produce and read them became rarer too. Each link in the chain weakened the next. This wasn't barbarians burning libraries. Many Germanic leaders admired Roman culture and tried to preserve it. The problem was structural. The economic engine that powered intellectual life had stalled, and no amount of admiration could restart it alone. And as the material world simplified, something else disappeared with it, the ability to read. By the 6th century in the Western Roman world, lay literacy, reading and writing among non-clergy had nearly vanished. The people who could read and write Latin were now overwhelmingly members of the clergy, and not many of them. This is a profound shift. Knowledge went from being a mark of secular elite status to being a near monopoly of the church. This wasn't a conspiracy. The church didn't suppress classical learning. It was the institution that preserved what survived. Monasteries and episcopal schools provided the institutional continuity that the collapsed secular elite could not. But that preservation was selective, filtered through Christian priorities, and dramatically narrower than what had existed before. The church saved fragments. The whole was gone. This transformation raises an uncomfortable question, not just about the past, but about how we think about decline itself. We want dramatic villains and singular catastrophes, a fire, an invasion, a tyrant. The truth is more unsettling. Complex systems can unravel slowly through the accumulation of small losses that no one notices until it's too late. Roman literacy didn't collapse because someone decided to destroy it. It collapsed because the social infrastructure that sustained it, the wealth, the trade networks, the career incentives, the patron class, eroded piece by piece. Our own intellectual infrastructure depends on institutions, funding, and a class of people with the time and resources to sustain it. The Roman world didn't forget how to read overnight. It forgot slowly. One fewer school, one fewer patron, one fewer book, until one day, almost no one was left who remembered.